Okay, you have finished your piecing, you have quilted your 3 layers together, and now you're ready to bind your quilt. You're so close to being able to use it and love it and cherish it and gift it. I love binding. It's one of my favorite parts of making a quilt. And I attach my bind with a machine and then I hand stitch it. And I love sitting at night and finishing the quilt slowly, hand stitched. There's just, I don't know, there's something about that. I really enjoy taking my time at the end to just have it on my lap and cherish it. So today we are binding this quilt, this star quilt, Scrappy Stars, and a bonus, we're going to do 2 quilts. We also need to bind this quilt. So this is a similar pattern. So they are both the same, similar in that they're a 9 patch with a snowball. This is also a 9 patch with a snowball. The difference being that these are separated stars, and for this quilt there is no plain squares in between. They're right next to each other, so it looks like a lattice. And this one I have 3D snowballs that are folded over. There is a playlist about how I made this quilt. There is a playlist on how I made this quilt. So if you want to go back and watch those videos up until this point, I'll leave the links down in the description for you. But for today, 2 binds for the price of 1. This star quilt has a flannelette fabric back, beautiful rich dark coral color. So I thought I'd make my bind in the same color. I went to the store and bought more and I didn't bring a sample. I thought they were the same color, but the fabric that I bought for the binding is slightly lighter orange, but I don't think that will matter. I'm going to make the binding on this one with 3-inch strips, because I alternate between 3-inch and 2.5-inch, and I'm going to do this one in 3-inch and this other quilt in 2.5-inch, just so you can see the difference. So I thought that would be a good experiment for you. So with this quilt, I have light and blue, all blues, but light and dark blues, and a bit of variation in color. So I decided I have a lot of this Vincent van Gogh fabric, so I'm going to make my bind out of that. I've gone ahead and actually cut my 2.5-inch strips of that fabric, so I think that will be quite interesting on the edge of this quilt. I have washed this flannelette because flannelette shrinks like crazy, so it has been washed, dried, and I've just ironed it. I've put the selvages together and there's a fold line here. I'm going to first straighten this up, so make sure that the fold line is along one line of your ruler, and neaten that up so it's nice straight. Now we're going to do 3 inches off that. The reason I chose flannelette is that it is 100% cotton. It's still very soft and cuddly, because this is going to be for my 4-year-old niece. She turns 5 next month, actually. So my 5-year-old niece. So cut in 3-inch strips.
So a change of scenery for this video. I am at my parents' house. This is my mum's craft and sewing room. They are away on holidays, so I thought I'd come over and film at their house to get some peace and quiet from my family. Mum has the exact same machine as me. She had hers first and I loved it so much, that's why I purchased mine. It's the Janome Memory Craft 6600. I've had it for 14 years now and it's still going strong.
So take 2 strips, right sides together. You know, it would be really smart for me to do, so it's more continuous, light against light. Okay, right sides together in a perpendicular manner. So line up your edges and we are going to run a diagonal stitch from this corner down to this corner. So you can pop a couple pins into on either side of your stitch line. If you are fairly new to stitching and you'd like to draw a line there, you can. Does Mum have a pen here for you to follow, either with an erasable pen or a pencil? Okay, and then a stitch line across that. Because it's right on the edge of the corner, I'm going to start with a little bit of fabric underneath. I've got my stitch line on 2.4, my stitch length. Take your pins out. And I always check that it's made a nice straight seam, which it has. So now you can go ahead and trim off, whoop, things flying everywhere. Trim that off. And eventually you will iron them all. I iron them in the open position to reduce bulk. So the reason we've got a diagonal seam here instead of just having it straight is that when it is on your quilt, you've spread the thickness of the seam across in length rather than having it all in one area, and it can make your bind have a little bulky area. So that's why I use a diagonal seam like that. Then I keep this one on top, and I have that there, ready to put the next one. This is dark on this end, so I'm going to put a piece that is dark. Oh, I put them down on the floor. Yep. So dark on dark, and you just repeat the process until you have a whole long strip of fabric. So now we have 2 long strips of fabric, and we'll just iron those seams that we did open, and then also iron in half lengthways. Let's do that. So a heap of binding, and this is the 3-inch strip and this is the 2.5-inch strip once they're folded in half. I've lost some of my natural light because there is a storm brewing. I can hear thunder off into the distance, so it's getting quite dark and gloomy out there. Next thing I need to do is trim up my quilts because they are still with the batting and the backing overhanging. So I'm going to trim those. This quilt I'm actually going to trim a little bit off because it's slightly too big, and because if you saw my last video, I didn't quite get enough backing and batting on one of the sides, so I do need to trim like 1 inch off. So I'll be doing that. How will I be doing that? Can't cut it that way because I need to measure my inch. So I need to, what do I need to do? I need to actually have it like this. And cut it, line up 1 inch, yes, and cut it. The only thing that's really important is to get your corners at 90 degrees exactly so that your mitered corners of your bind go perfectly. So basically use the corner of your ruler to make sure that your corners are square. Measure twice, cut once. Don't make a mistake. Holy dooly. That looks scary.
4:30, it's nearly dark. Street lights are on. Have you seen some of that lightning?
Yes, I was just driving through it.
There's been a couple over here.
Oh.
Wow.
So I've just arrived home. I decided to leg it from Mum and Dad's because that storm looked scary, and my husband called and said there was going to be hail. So I decided to get home with him. What do you think, Dal?
Oh, the first storm of the season is going to be epic. It's a bit serious.
Dean actually loves a storm. I'm really scared of storms. Dean, when I was driving home, there was lightning everywhere. Like, it's happening here, the lightning, and there's people just strolling around.
There's people walking their dog. Go home.
Oh, okay, it's going to be a big storm. Hopefully we can get the binding done later in the week.
Look at the opposite side of the building, isn't it? Wow.
Hail. Hail is coming in. Okay, let's continue. I'm going to show you 3 things: how to start, how to do a mitered corner, and how to come around back to the beginning and join your 2 ends together. So first of all, take your binding and hold it with your thumb and your finger. And up to your elbow, you're going to leave that much unsewn. You need to have a lot to work with at the end. Raw edge of my binding against the raw edge of my quilt. Just choose one of the sides and go in the center of it. I do have my walking foot attached. However, you don't need to have a walking foot if you don't have one. And I'm going to do a 1/4 inch seam. So raw edge on raw edge, 1/4 inch, needle down. When you come up to the corner, you need to go a little bit slower. You want to stop a 1/4 inch away from this side of the quilt. So even if you use your finger to show you where the edge of the quilt is, coming up to the corner, even if I do 1 stitch at a time until I am 1/4 of an inch away from this end. I'm going to hold in my backwards stitch button and take a few stitches backwards as well, because then I'm cutting off. So you can check how well did you do. So if I hold that up, I've got a 1/4 inch there left of the quilt. So then you need to get your quilt moved around to start sewing down this side. So here's your binding. You want to fold it backwards, so away from your quilt. This is a nice straight line, and this is a 90 degrees there. Once you have that, sort of hold that side down, then you're bringing it forwards. Okay, and you are lining up your fold along this side. Your raw edge still along this side. Okay, and in here is where we've got our fold. All right, then I go to the machine, I start at the beginning, and I just start stitching.
Another method is starting this stitch line 1/4 inch away from the end as well. Both methods will work.
So I've made needle down right at the edge. I'm going to go forward and then I'm going to go backward a little bit. So forward, backward, and forward again. Continue to the next corner. So I've done all 4 mitered corners and I'm back to the beginning. So here's the start and here's my end. So now I need to join these 2 pieces of binding with a diagonal seam to match the other ones. So how do I do this? So I've stopped stitching here and here. So I just pick somewhere in the middle and I put my first binding down and I just choose a spot and cut off the excess. So here's my first bit of binding. Now this was a 2.5 inch bind when I first cut it. That means I need to have an overhang of 2.5 inches. So if I put my ruler on top, so have it raw edge on raw edge, nice and straight, put my ruler down so that the top of the binding is at the top of my ruler. So we have 1 inch, 2 inch, 2.5. So I bring this binding down, again nice and straight, and I cut it at 2.5 inches because this is a 2.5 inch strip. Well, it was when we first cut it, 2.5 inch. So if I was doing a 3 inch binding, which I have on my orange quilt, my star quilt, I would have the overhang of 3 inches. So whatever the size of your original binding that you cut is the overhang you have. So it's as simple as that. I've got a 2.5 inch overlap, easy. So I can get rid of the ruler, I can get rid of the scissors. We now need to join these 2 pieces in a diagonal line. So all I do is right sides, just move that out a little bit, pull the front one and just open it up and have the right side down, right side up. So I just pull that out and put that up like that. And then this side, I'm going to open that one up and have it right side down and put them perpendicular to each other, just as we were when we were making our binding. Okay, so I'll have to make sure that the top of the binding that we cut is along the edge for both of them, which they are. We put our pins in. So now I have made the mistake of stitching this way, you guys. That does not work. So the way I think about it now is remembering that I have to cut off a triangle. So if I've got to cut off a triangle, it means my stitch line goes this way, so I can cut off this excess. That's how I remember it. So when I put my pins in, they need to be going one this way and one this way, because I am sewing from the corner to the corner, just like I did at the beginning of this video, and cutting off this excess. So make sure your right sides are together. This is why I'm showing you on this binding, because on the orange one it would be less easy to see. So I'm going to make that stitch line. I'll draw that line again. You can skip this step if you trust your stitching to be nice and straight from corner to corner. Okay, pins out. Yep. There you go. Pins out. Take off this. Before I cut anything, I always make sure that I'm happy with it. So bring that back up. So as you can see, it will now lay flat. So that's perfect, it's worked well, so I can go ahead and snip off this excess fabric. leaving just a 1/4 inch. Get that out of the way. I could iron that, or I could just finger press it open and then fold it back. That fold line there, it should still be good because it's all been ironed. It's just this one. Okay, perfect, look at that. So then I go ahead and I just start up here and I continue my stitch and it's all in place. So I'm all done with this one. With the 3-inch stripped binding, the seam that I did was a little bit bigger than a 1/4 inch. It was actually, I just measured it then, it's 3/4. No, it's not. It's 3. I'm not good with inches, you guys, because we have centimeters in Australia. But for quilting, I still use a 1/4 inch. We use the, what do you call it? The imperial? Is that what it's called, you guys? Anyway, we had the metric system. Anyways, but you would call that 3/8, wouldn't you? Is that how you do it, Americans? Can you tell me? Is that what that measurement is? 3/8 rather than 1/4 for that, just to give enough to go around and around. Let's go. So both bindings are attached to my quilt by machine. I'm going to go home now and I'm going to do some hand sewing tonight after dinner on the couch. So I'll see you there. Hello, hello. It is a few days later. I've nearly finished sewing this binding down on this blue quilt. I've watched 2 movies, and in that time I've managed to get all the way around except for one corner, just this little bit, which I left to show you how I hand stitch and how I do these mitered corners. So I'm just using a cotton thread, the same as what I use in the sewing machine. This one is polyester. It is dark blue, which has been great for most of the binding along here. However, I am getting to this bright yellow piece, which the blue probably will be visible, but that will be good because I'll be able to show you exactly what I'm doing. Everyone has their own ways of making knots. This is my way. I have the end of the thread between my index finger and the needle, and I go 1, 2, 3 around. I actually switch hands, hold it between and pull to get a needle, to get a knot on the end. In my first year of teaching, I actually took a textiles class and I had to teach year 7s how to do that, how to make a knot at the end of thread. So, and help them through it, and yeah, quite amusing, as you can imagine. Okay, so I'm going to start by placing my needle from underneath the binding, just on the edge, so that the knot can be hidden inside. So just tuck it in so the knot's hidden inside. So then I take straight down from where it was out, came out, run it along inside the quilt, just less than a centimetre, and pull. So I guess that's maybe half an inch if we're going by inches. Then repeat. So go right on the edge of the binding, especially in this yellow, so you can see my little lines. But I don't mind. So I have the back of the quilt facing up and the quilt away from me, so the binding is in front of me on this side. I am not going through to the other side of the quilt, just going through the wadding or the batting. So there is quite enough of the binding to roll over and cover this line. That's the stitch line where we attached the binding. So it rolls over and covers that quite easily without you having to struggle to cover it. So it's nice and sharp, this needle, and the way I'm holding it, I guess these two fingers are holding in front of where I'm sewing, and then I use my thumb and the other fingers to sort of hold it. I mean, everyone has their own methods, don't they? But just for interest's sake, I'll just explain exactly what I'm doing, and it might help others, especially if you're just doing this for the first time. Okay, so do your last stitch and bring up the needle, can you see that? Right at where your corner will be based on this stitch line. So I've gone right up to there. I actually put a second one just in right where I am, so no traveling. Just go down and hold that with a second one and give it a nice tug. As you can see on this side, it's already sitting in the mitered. That I did nothing to do that. All I did was flip the fabric over and it made that nice fold there by itself automatically. On this side though, we do have now, we just have to maneuver that over so that it covers the stitch line, and then we'll have another mitered corner there. See? Perfect. So sort of got to get it into a place that you're happy with. Got to use all your fingers like you're an octopus. Then I want to just secure that end, so I just put a stitch through and another one. Okay, just hold that in place there. And then I always like to have another couple, can you see this? Another stitch here or here, maybe one or two. So I just go down and run along, up and push to get halfway along. Sorry if this is hard to see. And then I can do that again, down and along. So that'll be extra secure, securing your miter. Okay, now I'm going to angle my, I'm going to go in here, I'm going to come back out And as you can see, that's made a nice mitre, and that's all now secure. We just have to continue sewing this other side down. So I just move it a little bit. So just down where you had come out. So when you're stitching, all of the traveling from one spot to another needs to happen inside the quilt. And what you see on the outside is just tiny little stitches in one place. And I just continue till I get to where I started. How easy was that? So, oh, where's the camera? So that's our mitered corner on the back of the quilt, and on the front, looks like that. Pretty perfect if you ask me. Gorgeous. All right, so I don't have long to go here, do I? Just this much. So why don't you stay with me while I do that? How's life? What you been doing? What projects are you working on? I have been busy lately. I've had a bit of a social life. That's why I've been finding it hard to get this video out to you all. I've been going to music festivals. I've been hanging out with friends, going on bushwalks. I've been doing my yoga classes. So, finding it hard to get these out to you, but I miss you all. And I'm thinking, is this letting the cat out of the bag too early? I'm thinking of starting a community where you will all be able to post the projects you're working on, and that way I can see what you are working on and respond and comment to you, and it's not just one-sided. So keep your eye out for that. That might be happening in the near future. But I am a very busy person, and I work full-time as a teacher. I have 2 teenage kids and a husband. I'm into lots of things. I, want to keep my fitness up. I go to yoga classes. I love being outdoors and going on bushwalks and traveling. And so, I might be a bit bonkers also wanting to do this YouTube channel, but you can't stop busy people, busy minds, busy hands. It's just so much to do in life. I'm going to nearly finish this one. Now, I was thinking, because I do want to get this video out to you, that we'll leave it there. And because I haven't done the star one yet, and that might just be part of next video. Now I do need to show you how so this is where I started. You can see there's a stitch there. So I'm now here, so it's a good place to end. So I just make sure I've given that a tug and it's nice and taut. I'm going to go into the back of the quilt and then into the binding and do 1 stitch. But while I have a loop, I'm going to go through with the back of my needle through that loop, grab it and pull. And I'm going to do that twice. So I'm going to go down in there again, through, and then through the loop, and back out, and give it a nice tug. I can snip that off there. And it's all done. Okay, I'll show you some shots. Oh, so beautiful. I love this quilt so much. I love this quilt. I'm so happy with just all the colors through it. I love the colors through it, even though it's mostly blue. And I love this blue. which was some of Mum's fabric, and it was the very last amount of it. I just think that pattern has worked out so nicely. And the binding, what do we think of the binding, you guys? I love my choice. I love how it ties back to the colours, especially like the yellow parts. The yellow, and then we have yellow here, here, here. And this, or this. Oh. And then we actually have the Vincent there. So, oh, I love that. Love it. Love it. Oh, do you remember, you guys, that this is a 3D quilt? That was just a little experiment, little folded triangles to make the snowballs rather than stitched in snowballs. Something different. So lovely. I'll just move it so you can see the full lot. It's late at night, I'm nearly ready for bed. So do I show you myself or not? That is the question. Got no makeup on. Ah. If you made it to the end of this video, the secret emoji to use has to be a lightning bolt. So use that in the comments, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye, everyone.